to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'd like to thank everyone for being here tonight. Is there anyone on Zoom? Okay, thank you. First item on the agenda is public comment. There's none registered in advance. Does anyone here have public comment to make? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the nuisance update. Who would like to go first? Same time, okay. In unison.
Working on this that we end up with the same stuff, but one main thing is we had court this Thursday, and the city attorney was ill on Thursday, so we missed out on some of those cases. They got moved out till August 1st, but the ones that Taylor Niederhoff's took care of, those went through. I think there was about 6 of those. We did get some court orders out of that, so I'm glad to see some court orders coming out of that and some nuisance cleanup starting to take place. They've kind of been long awaited, and I know some of the neighbors have been waiting for those too to see some progress. We're waiting on those, and that's all I really have for nuisance, other than we're still writing them and still serving people and going forward.
Any questions?
I did see I had a news story I posted about the city of Newton. They're jacking up the rates to get that done. I mean, they're paying top dollar almost to pay contractors to get these done.
To clean them up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been using the city staff for the most part to do all our cleanups. So
Right. I don't know.
we used contractors before. It got kind of
Right.
expensive. But
Yeah, they're going, says Newton City Council on July 15th moved forward with staff request to increase the abatement rate for private contractors from $60 an hour to $100 per hour with a 1 hour minimum. So they're putting some, I don't know what our rates are, and I don't know what people get
we
charged.
have a rate schedule, but you can probably.
We use the FEMA rates.
All right.
I can let you know what those rates
Yeah,
are.
anyway, that's, and it's on my Facebook things too, you look that up, but anyway, yeah, it's they're feeling it, and they're taking, they're aggressively after it too, and some city council people are against it, and some are for it, and so, anyway, just one thing they're doing to clean their town up.
Any other questions for Mark? Otherwise, Doug, do you have?
Basically,
Anything
same
to add?
report, same report.
Okay. Well, nothing else. Thank you very much.
I'd like to.
Oh, well, go ahead, Barry.
I was at the post office today, and there's practically no parking stripes there. Could you research that and see if there's any other places that need to be done, and could you do that?
I'll look into it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda, Derek Johnson with ISG to present engineering services proposal related to 4-6 First Street Northwest property. Derek, would you approach the podium? Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. As you mentioned, Derek Johnson with ISG. We are an engineering and architectural firm with 3 offices in Iowa and a handful of offices in Minnesota. And so today we had presented at the Nuisance Abatement Conference through the Iowa League of Cities. And our structural engineering group leader, Sam Brockshus, and I presented, and following up with that, got introduced to Ron to talk about what could be done and looking at the 2 properties mentioned above. So came up and took a quick look and developed a proposal. Really what we were focusing on with the proposal was developing a roadmap for the city to gain the best information that you can gather so that you can make informed decisions moving forward. And we structured the proposal into a couple of phases with a breaking point or stopping point in between so that you can take the information we've gathered and then make a decision to move forward with the next step or to stop there and consider other alternatives. So in short, the proposal is on this first phase is to look at structural and environmental. So environmental is a phase 1, and then an investigation into asbestos and lead-based paint. Phase 2 is a structural evaluation, and at the completion of Phase 2, we'll look at preparing a cost estimate, so you have an understanding of what costs could be to demolish, we'll say, the back third of the building, and then also take into account whatever we uncover in our Phase 1 investigation. So at that time, we would present that information to the city and be here to answer your questions, have a continuing conversation about what we found in the structural investigation, what the recommendations would be, and then you would be able to choose your path from there, whether it be further work to develop construction drawings for stabilizing the building and demolishing a portion of it, or another alternative at the time. So we did, for Phase 2, we did outline a bit of an estimated cost of what that could be for construction documents and assistance with facilitating the public bid process to take on any select demolition or additional work that may be required, again, pending that result of that first phase.
A question I have is, if we sign this agreement, and you give us, like, we go to Phase 2 to get an estimated cost, that does not obligate us to actually agree to work with you on that
Correct.
Phase 2. It's
Correct.
just a matter of getting the price and then we would have a separate decision following that.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yep.
I assume that, but I wanted to hear you say it.
Yep, always the city's decision. So we put a Phase 2 understanding, a range for what the potential fee would be, just so you'd have an understanding of what could be, but there's no obligation to proceed with ISG for Phase 2.
Good, thank you. Any other questions from the council for discussion?
When would you start?
So we'd get a site visit scheduled, hopefully within a week or two after receiving your recommendation to move forward. And depending on the length of time it takes to schedule the sampling for the asbestos and lead-based paint, that's outside of, we'd partner with another firm to do that. I would expect 6 to 8 weeks. Hopefully on the 6-week side, we'd have the reports done and back to you to be able to continue the conversation.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Ron, or Doug, did you have anything that you wanted to add at this point?
Nothing to add, just that if the council wishes to move forward, then this would go on Thursday's council agenda for consideration.
What do you think, council? Should we put that on
So-
Thursday's agenda then?
Are we waiting for another?
No, I visited with the other company, and their structural engineers, they don't have the time to commit to it under the timeline that we need, and so I indicated to them that they can cease preparation of a proposal, so we need to get moving.
Anything else?
Do you know anything about grants or money to help with this?
Yeah, so we've worked with several programs in the past. There's, the DNR has some programs for disposal of, some monies available for disposal of demolished materials. And then there's also a catalyst grant for work to be done that, Main Street properties that include housing. And I think there's potential for that depending on what role the city wants to play moving forward. So again, that would fall into that Phase 2 component of things.
Thank you.
We have a grants and funding team, and I'll ask them questions and tap into them as we move forward. But the two that generally get used are a little bit on the demolition and then looking at catalyst, but that takes into account development of housing with those Main Street properties.
Thank you.
And I'm assuming with the timeline that we're under, if there were any grants that would help us with this Phase 1, we're probably not going to be able to work with that, given the timeline.
We'll do a quick look, but I wouldn't count on that.
Right. Okay, anything else? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and put that on Thursday's meeting agenda.
I'd also ask if I could, is there a specific date? I think 6 to 8 weeks is achievable for us. Is there a decision timeline that you have coming up quicker than that, or something we should target specifically?
So we just want to move as soon as possible.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Good, thank you very much. Okay, next item on the agenda, Joanne Kellenson requesting consideration of adding ADA loading zone parking for 403 7th Street Southwest. I don't think Joanne is here, but I assume that Doug will be addressing this issue.
I will, thank you. The chief and I met with Joanne last week and had a little bit of a discussion. And basically what the chief and I would recommend is utilizing 2 spaces on 7th Street Southwest as a loading zone as opposed to necessarily an ADA or handicap zone. We feel that a loading zone would allow them for delivery of goods other than also the collection with the transit bus. There are some people there that utilize the transit bus quite frequently. And that was kind of the request in a nutshell. That was our recommendation as the chief and I put that together and had a discussion, because they are 2 different scenarios. An ADA would require them to put in that's not an ADA ramped sidewalk. It's just a normal sidewalk. However, it's my understanding that when they drop things off or drop people off there, that their ramp actually will come down on top of that sidewalk, you know, with the curve the way it is. If they ever wanted to, I'd recommend to Joanne at some point, they might want to consider doing that. But for the most part, basically the request was just to add some loading zone parking there. And that's kind of what we ended up with, and that's what we're putting before you guys for your consideration.
Have you talked to Joanne and the board of directors there with your proposal, as it is not what she is requesting, exactly what she is requesting?
Joanne and, yeah, we did have that conversation, one or the other. They were happy with either one, and it was
Okay.
just Joanne. And from my understanding, she's the president of an association regarding
Well, it's
that.
the Park Place of Hampton Corporation. In fact, I was involved with that back when it started in 1995. I was the president of the corporation when they built the building.
Okay,
I'm no longer, I went off that board in 1998,
sure.
but I could certainly see why, and that probably should have been something that probably should have been done back then. Not that it was council's responsibility, but I think it's a good thing.
So yups, but if you would like me to approach her with some other questions or what have you, I'd be more than happy to do that. If this
I
is-
just wanted to make sure that, I mean, if their board was agreeable with that.
Right, and I did not talk to their board, I spoke with her.
Well, I mean, she would be the representative she's on the board
Right.
of directors. I'm not sure if she's the president or not, but
And that's who Mark and I met with down there.
I think
was-
Brian Borkening's actually at First Bank is the president of that group, or who was last I knew.
This will be an ordinance, won't it?
Yes, this would be an ordinance, and the other reason it was kind of on here we literally just met, was it Thursday last week? And so, we also have another parking scenario this evening, to put before you guys as well that we'll be speaking about, so, it's kind of nice to do those ordinances together if possible for the amendments.
So this handicapped, you'll just paint the curb yellow and put some signs up?
Yep, yellow and loading zone only, yep,
So then it's not ADA then?
correct.
Okay.
It's not, that's why yes.
Okay,
it's loading
so it's
zone.
yellow,
Talk about handicap parking and the benefits and, well, it wouldn't be, because you could get a car parked there, and it could stay there for days, and you're gonna have the same problem with the loading and unloading.
right,
So we kind of talked about with her that it was best to do loading as opposed to.
right,
Yeah.
good, okay.
Save them some money too.
Yep.
Yeah, like I said, I don't have a problem with it, but that's why I just wanted to make sure that she and the board were on the same page that we're talking about now,
Yeah.
before we actually proceed with like an ordinance. Sorry, go ahead.
She was on board with us with the loading zone. Again, we didn't talk to the board, so we can reach out to the board.
Any other questions or comments? Good. Well, thank you very much for that. Anything else with that issue?
Not with
Okay,
that one.
let's move on then to the next one, the parking at 400 block of 4th Avenue Southeast, down by Southside School.
As you guys know, there is a new parking lot and definitely some new routes for buses that are going to be taking place at the school. During a meeting I had with the general contractor last week in the area, the topic was brought up that he had had a conversation with basically the superintendent, and advised superintendent was going to reach out, and we were going to discuss potentially adding some no parking during school hours signage that I believe you guys have the map for. It's highlighted in orange. Now, the superintendent has not reached out yet, but knowing this, I wanted to move forward a little bit quicker, so I spoke with the chief about this proposal. And knowing that there is bus traffic that's going to need some turning room and things in that area, and to try to get it done, since it is an ordinance, to try to get it done prior to school starting, I felt it was very urgent to try to get it in front of you guys for consideration a lot quicker. Because there is going to be I think, a safety concern if we were to still allow parking. There's already no parking on the north side of 4th Avenue throughout there. And having said that, you know, it's a normal width type street, residential area. I just think for all safety purposes, that kind of what's been put before you would probably be the best way to go. However, if you want some other options or something of that nature, you'd have to let me know, but
Gosh, I've driven down there enough, but is the new parking lot they put in, there's not a drive on the north side of that? Is it just strictly off of Highway 65?
no,
Or is there-
if you look, there is actually, this picture doesn't show it, but there is actually a new, exit that comes off of there onto 4th Avenue Southeast.
Okay, that's
So
what I
there's-
was thinking.
Right, and so with that new approach that's there, the bus traffic would be coming off of the highway and making a loop, and for that traffic that wants, the
Yeah.
buses that want to go back to the highway immediately, which would be great to keep them away from, you know, you might get one bus that might go to the east, but you're gonna really want most of them to go back to the west and get back on the highway, as opposed to staying off those
But that doesn't
residential.
mean they're going to do it.
Well, that's
but-
correct,
Yeah.
yes.
It's
Other questions, or I think Barry, do you have something?
congested right now, and there's minimal school
Right,
activities. I'd like to see another thing done. On Highway 3 and 5th Street Southeast, the DOT has a sign saying Southside School, turn right. Can they move that sign to 4th Street Southeast?
I would have to get with the DOT on that, Greg Moore, and just ask him, if he can. You know, typically, yeah, their engineers are the ones that come up with their layouts and stuff,
Well,
and we can't just
It's
move
a
them, but
city
it's-
street,
yeah,
and we could reduce a lot of damage to it if we
Right.
kept the traffic off it. It's shot the way it is.
Question I would have then related to that would be, you might want to check with the school. Are they going to, because like the street you're talking about, didn't buses usually go down that to the school? Are they going to change the route that buses, maybe the school board member here knows, but, you know, going to change the route that buses will be coming to and from the school rather than going through the residential, strictly going on the highway and Highway 65 and then going to the school? Because I think they used to come, like, between when the old middle school was at where Church of the Living Word was, I think a lot of times you saw the buses. And I don't know if that sign was put there, because that's been there a long time, that sign that Barry was talking about.
Right, right.
'Cause they may not even
I
need
wouldn't
it.
know, but
Yeah.
Eric, Yeah, you're spot on.
So maybe I would ask them about that too, as far as just what they're gonna be telling the bus drivers, what route to take, the most, like the direct route to South Side, to and from South Side. And if going through, like using that parking lot and then on Highway 65, rather than through residential area. Any other questions or comments from the council?
No, I'd be for this.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
And I would try to have that in an ordinance fashion, possibly for Thursday night. I'd like to speak with Ron to see what the schedule looks like.
So that'd be something you probably want us to,
That's not gonna happen by Thursday.
That won't happen? Okay.
No.
then
so
you
we'll
would
have to-
maybe ask us
Alright.
to suspend the rules and not have 3 readings.
I mean, you could at the next meeting.
I mean, we could
Yeah.
by then, but.
Right.
okay.
Yeah, I just know it's getting crunch time because school's going to be starting here in a few weeks.
Okay. Anything else from council? Okay, thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.
I think then we'll move on to the last item, is Chapter 52 Noise Ordinance Revision Draft Review. Ron?
Yeah, so, the copy you have in front of you is a revised draft showing the red that the city attorney, Megan Rosenberg, has made some changes. I wouldn't say anything is real material, but Mark, do you have anything to
No.
add? Do you have a copy of this?
Yeah.
Okay.
She just added in a few definitions, and then we had a few changes to.
Mark, can you come to the podium? It's people on the live stream can't hear very well. Thank you.
Yeah, she just made a few changes to the definitions, as you can see in the red on the first page. And then just a few language changes. And then on number 10, as far as the organized events at Franklin County Fair property, she just made those as authorized by the Fair Board, City of Hampton, Franklin County, or other appropriate governing body. So, I think we both agree with the changes she's made, so.
Yeah.
Any comments, questions from the council, for Mark or Ron?
I do have a question on.
Could you put your microphone?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
I do have a question regarding the generators from the food trucks. How far do they have to be from residential areas?
Because there's
I know
there's a
standing-
generator of the food truck that's just
Yeah.
north of the Windsor, across from the
Yep.
nightclub there, because that's running a lot.
Like just standing.
I hear it at the Windsor,
At the
outside.
back of my building, it's at 60.
Yeah, this wouldn't necessarily separate it from the residential areas. It would be a noise from a certain distance. So if I had the meter.
Okay, then
and the-
I think 65 is kind of high, because 60 at the back of my building, it's loud and annoying. I can hear it at the front of my building, the tenant upstairs complains about it. I mean, people live there, so I'm thinking also the people that live kitty corner.
Yeah, there's a house kitty
It's awfully
corner.
close to residential areas, and we just had a guy, was it last summer, complaining he couldn't sit on his porch because it was so
That's-
loud, it was so close.
Why we have this in front of us. It should
Exactly.
be- They
That's,
should find electricity instead of a generator.
yep. And the guy over by the Windsor, he was on electricity for a while, and all of a sudden he's
He
using
was
his
last
generator
year,
again.
this year he's on the generator.
So I guess, we're looking at the noise ordinance, but still, what does that do
Yeah, will
as
these,
far as generators so far from residential areas? And
how will these changes like deal with that? If we're saying that that's not a good thing there?
This would make it cut and dry a sound level. So if I used a decibel meter and standing so far away from it, whatever is prescribed here, I'd have to look specifically, but that would determine whether it was too loud or not loud.
Do you have a decimeter that, or?
No, we have to buy one.
Because what I'd like you to do is to take a couple readings of that from maybe the apartment, from behind Jerry's store, from kitty corner to that house,
Well,
kitty corner
just
from that,
roughly,
just to
it's-
see what the level is.
It's about 100 feet away. And there's people that live, less than 100 feet away. So, how are we going to set those boundaries? Okay, it's 100 feet away, it's at 60 decibels, but it's still loud and still annoying. And we have the limit here at 65. Lower the limit, I don't know.
Maybe it would be a good idea for Mark to actually purchase the decibel meter
Yeah.
so that we could do some,
Test this out.
get
I
some
would-
information.
Yeah.
I know cell phones have some, but
Yeah.
I don't know the accuracy of them, so maybe if we just purchase it and then we can do some tests.
Yeah, I
There might
can-
be some other sample areas that we want to check.
And then we can determine, okay, well, it's fallen within X decibel and then report back to the council with some of the.
But
Is that
that's
all
not
right?
gonna change the fact if some people don't want the generator noise at all,
Yeah,
but.
Yeah.
you're
But I
gonna
th-
have to buy it anyway, I think, the
Right.
intent,
Yeah.
Yeah, I can purchase it tomorrow. We have it already kind of set up, so.
And speaking for myself, I think that'll help me make a better decision on this ordinance if we have some sample readings.
I agree.
Yeah, then we can actually put it to use and you can kind of go around with these guidelines and then see what's going to break the law and see what's not. And
Yep.
and go from there.
Okay, any other comments,
I,
questions, Barry?
I make a motion that Pat talk to him to get
Well,
some,
we don't
get it
really
plugged
make
in.
any motions at workshop meetings,
to
but
get
I
it
think-
plugged in instead of a generator.
Well, whoever owns that building must not pay the electric bill
That's
anymore.
what I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
wondering.
that sounds good. Good, okay. Anything else for Mark or Ron? Okay, seeing none?
But I haven't seen him open for a while either. I don't
Oh,
know.
he was. He's open.
Okay,
He's open every night.
Yeah. Okay, I guess we're at the end of the meeting, and we'll go ahead and adjourn. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob.
Maybe they should start paying an electric bill for the other person. Have you seen